all over again. Yeah, now we need to do it over again, okay? Sorry. Have you ever done television shows or movies and things where you have to stop and redo it and all that?
Only Bozo the Clown when we were in Girl Scouts and I marched in the marching team and Bozo the Clown.
Right.
Can you believe it?
For all of you here, I am so glad that Susan was willing to do this video for us. She is unable to make it in this round, which makes me and her really, really sad because she really wanted to be here. Susan and I have done these short sessions now for several years. And just between you and me, I have learned a whole lot from her. And I so appreciate her being willing to do this now. So here we are. Susan, go for it.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, I may have to get up and shut the door. Maybe I should do that now. Let me do that real quick.
Okay, wait, I can stop the recording. Okay, you can start.
Okay. So Utah and I have been doing this actually since 2014. I looked at the date. It's a long time. And I could not be any more honored that she invited me to do this with her because, number one, when I first started, I had aphasia, not asphasia, aphasia. And I was having a lot of trouble speaking and I just about stopped speaking. And when I met her, we were standing outside. We had been in an office talking to somebody else and we were standing outside and I said to her, I wanted to be able to do this with Utah because I wanted people to know that you could have a life with dementia, aphasia, or any, mild to moderate dementia and not die, basically, inside, whether you died, whether your brain was withering away, but inside, when somebody says that to you, it's like saying to me, you don't have a life anymore. You're going to have to do X, Y, Z.
How did you find out that you had dementia other than?
I went to the Cleveland.
Right. But
and so that's when they said I had cognitive, I had on the standard deviation graph, which is a graph, once to explain it to people, when you go to get assessed, they do a lot of tests. They do verbal tests, they do physical tests, they do what is it called? Minnesota. They show you all these pictures and numbers and everything. Can't remember what it's called. So when they gave me the assessment, it was on a graph, and the graph showed that on graphs they have bell curves, and my curve went to 38, which is 2 standard deviation points away from full-blown dementia, but having a major problem. And no one, literally at the Cleveland Clinic, said that I could do what I'm doing today. They basically said, you are not going to be able to speak very well. You're going to have aphasia and you won't be able to do X, Y, Z. And to give you a little background, I was driving around. I had no idea where I was. I've lived in Santa Fe in New Mexico since 1993, and in Santa Fe for 20 years, 21, 22 years. And so I knew the streets backwards and forwards, but when this happened, number one, when I got into my driveway, I started to undress. I was undressing. I couldn't tell you why I was undressing. I just know I started to undress. I almost went through the black wall in our where we live, because I forgot to put the brake on. There were a few things that happened that were startling, to say the least. And when I was driving, I had no idea where I was. So like I'd get on, there's a street called, which takes New Mexico. I'd get on St. Francis, which was thoroughfare, and I would just drive. I had no idea where I was. And then somehow I would look around and go, oh, this is the road to Los Alamos. So then I would drive back home.
Excuse me, for those of you who are not familiar with Santa Fe, she was like at the very other end of town.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
You're talking about 30
Road
minutes.
to Los Alamos is not anywhere near where you live or where you were supposed to go.
Not at all. So the thing that Yuta gave to me, which I think is really, really important, was inspiration. When we sat down for the first time, I was a blubbering person. And I don't remember everything she said, but the one thing that I do remember is what she said to me is, you need to do something creative. And the very next day, I went into Santa Fe clay because I love pottery and I love clay. I've loved it for years and I've done it for years. And I started I went there at 9 o'clock in the morning, every single solitary day. 4 years. I forced myself to talk when people asked me about what I was doing, and I couldn't talk very well at that time. And I would have to ask somebody what the name of the wheel was or what I was talking about. And I learned how to talk again. And then I sold my pieces. They had a Santa Fe farmers market every week on Saturdays, and I went out and I sold my pieces. So I learned how to do money. And Yuta said, use my cell phone, the computer, the calculator.
GPS.
Yeah. To do all GPS and then the calculator to sell my product, because all I had to get on was add up the numbers, and then whatever. And I had a thriving business at the time. It was. And they had Christmas sales. It was a great place to be. It was honestly a great place to be with a great group of people. And I learned how to talk again. And it took me a long time. I would say periodically it comes back and bites me in the butt, because with the pandemic, it kind of put a lot of things on hold. So you didn't have as much interaction with people. And so some of it started to come back, but I forced myself to continue to talk. So, and then I did something with some people from DIA. I have no idea what happened with all that, but nevertheless. And I continued to do the conferences and continue to force myself to talk whenever I could. And if I don't talk, it's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. I do believe with everything I have inside of me that aphasia is something that if you don't force yourself to talk, you'll lose your language. For sure. You'll lose your voice.
Yeah, use it or lose it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that happened, which was brilliant on Muta's part, was the Alzheimer's Cafe. It was brilliant. Is still brilliant. Not was, it still is brilliant. And I met people who had similar problems, who had a lot more intense problems, who were early stage, middle stage, not real late stage. And that was the key for me, because I forced myself to talk in there. And that's how I learned how to talk again, is I went to the cafe, and I still go to the cafe every month. And I talk, sometimes I talk to Coach D, who is our resident parrot. And I love Coach D. Coach D loves me too, and loves Yuta too. And it just, this isn't a disease that takes women only, men only. It takes younger children.
Mhm.
Everybody is affected. Whole systems are affected. And I think that I think now in 2000, what is this, 22, we're finally getting, at least some people are finally getting an awakening of what dementia truly is about. And even more than just what they knew, but now it's becoming more, because of research, it's becoming more defined and with more solutions on how to keep people functioning, being able to communicate, and whatever kinds of dementia they have, because aphasia is only one form of dementia. So, and I've also done, I may be repeating myself, but I've also done a lot when somebody calls me up to do some kind of interview, I do it. And I do it primarily because I want other people to know that they do not have to live like this for the rest of their lives.
Mhm.
That in fact, there is hope, that they can have relationships. I mean, there are people who don't know this, and they sit in their house with somebody who's enabling them. And that's the best word to say, because whoever that care partner is so overwhelmed sometimes, most of the time, that they don't know what to do. And they enable them not to be able to get help.
Right.
And there's so much out there because of YouTube. There are cafes all over the United States, and probably more than the United States,
All over the world.
all over the world.
Right.
So,
And I didn't start. I started the first cafe in this country, but I did not, I was in this country, excuse me, and I was a latecomer.
but the latecomers,
The cafes in Europe and elsewhere. So, and you're right. And one thing, because we're getting ready to wrap up here. You mentioned coming to the cafe and how that helped you. One amazing thing that I watch at the cafes is people who've never been to a cafe before. And when we have a nice mixed group, people with dementia, their caregivers, families, friends, whatever. Several people have said to me, they can't tell who has dementia and who doesn't,
lost.
who's so-called normal. And that to me just thrills me. That thrills me. So Susan, thank you so much, honey. And I will make sure that people get information so that we can continue this conversation online. And actually also on Facebook. We have an Alzheimer's Cafe page on Facebook, group on Facebook, and we invite you to participate on that one as well. So I love you, and I'm so sorry you can't be here. This is terrible, but I'll see you really soon at home.